Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Sisterhood.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Now, you're in California, right?
Yes.
Which part?
We're in San Luis Obispo, which is like Central Coast, kind of between Santa Barbara and San Francisco.
It's
Okay.
like heaven. That's where you live.
It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. I probably don't appreciate it enough.
You're not from there, though, right?
I'm from Orange County, so Southern California.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about your daily life. What do your weeks look like? And I know it can vary, but in general.
Yeah, for sure. It's all over the place, but I really try to, we have breakfast as a family, and I like to take my son David to school, and then my husband takes our other son Matthias to school. So we kind of have like a family morning routine, which is nice. And then I'm actually not in the office very much. I mostly work from home. So I'm in the office maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but often working from home. Like, I just kind of like being alone and having that space. I often
Are you an introvert?
I am an introvert. I'm a very social introvert. So I really enjoy social situations, but I recharge by being alone. And I'll often meet up with friends, like either for lunch or coffee at some point during the day, just to get a little girl time. And then, and I've got meetings, I often have phone meetings or in-person meetings. Like, that's just part of business, I think, is there's always meetings.
Right.
And then our family has dinner together. Sometimes I cook, sometimes we order food in. And lately we've been watching Arrow. It's like a Marvel superhero.
Is that on Netflix?
It's on Netflix or one of those, yeah.
Amazon Prime or something.
Yeah, there's like 10 seasons and there's like 50 episodes per season. And I don't think we're ever going to finish it, but my kids are happy, so.
And how old are your kids?
2 boys, 14 and 16.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Arrow is their prime, huh?
Arrow is where it's at. And it's hilarious because it's like every episode is the same. Like there's some world-threatening crisis that's like the biggest thing that the earth has ever encountered, and then the Green Arrow is going to solve it, so don't worry.
Every time
And there's great action scenes, which I'm like, I'll just go on Instagram and zone out for 10 minutes because it's I'm just not into fight scenes, but the boys love it.
Yeah, my boys love Psych. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, it is so cute. It's really well done.
So they just think that those guys are so funny.
They are funny.
And it's the same plot every time.
Same exact
same
plot.
thing, but they just love it. They love it.
Predictability can be comforting, right?
Right.
That's what I was going to say. There is something comforting in knowing in the end, it's all going to work out.
Totally. I know where this is going.
I can feel the tension right now. And part of why I can feel it is because I know it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so Lisa, talk to us a little bit about this book. I mean, this is a big deal. How did this come about?
I know. I wrote a book. I can hardly believe it. So I was going to write a book quite a few years ago, and it just wasn't coming together. And it just felt like, maybe it's not the right time. So I kind of put it on the back burner, and was approached by an agent a couple of years ago. And when it's just like, when things are just kind of like coming together in a way that you think, So she reached out to me actually through our customer service, which so many of those emails I just don't even get because they filter for me. But I happened to be walking through the room and they said, oh, this woman reached out about writing a book. And I said, send it through. So we had a phone call and I just really, really liked her. And then started working on this book, which felt like such a massive undertaking. And like the writing felt hard, but also I just really wanted to genuinely share my story, which there's a lot of really raw, painful stuff in my story. And putting that down on paper or typing into computer felt kind of crazy. Like, am I actually going to put this into the world?
Totally.
So sometimes there was weeks when I didn't even write because I was just too scared to like kind of go to that place where like reliving it and putting it down on paper. And so, but my editor said, you know what, just put it all down and then we can go back and revisit it and see if it's too much, Mm-hmm. And of course it was like, that's the really beautiful parts of the book that I think people are going to probably resonate with most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that writing, give yourself freedom to write as if no one's going to read it.
Yes.
And then you write the real stuff and then you can go back and say, no, it's too much. Or
yes.
I can share this part of my story, but it's too much of someone else's. And so I need to hold back.
Exactly. It's so true. I think that not trying to edit yourself, but just writing with a freedom is when, the beautiful stuff comes out. And like you're saying, and you can go back and clean it up and take out things that are like maybe too personal or it's someone else's story.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, Lisa, where do some of those hard stories come from? Are they from your childhood or more from adulthood?
Well, there's the two big kind of life crises that I share. One is the birth of our oldest son, David, who was born with a severe syndrome. He has only 2 fingers on his left hand, and he's nonverbal. He's 16 now, and he's still diapered and spoon-fed. So he has a lot of needs, and he's also just so amazing and incredible and fun. But when he was born, we didn't know that there was anything wrong with the pregnancy. It had been so seamless and easy. So when it was born, our worlds just collapsed around us. And I just didn't have any kind of framework to know how to care for a baby with so many needs. And I didn't know how to see myself in that situation as a mom of a child with special needs. So it was really traumatic and just devastating, to be honest. And of course, we picked up the pieces and moved on. And we've just found so much beauty. But I think I really talk about our marriage crisis a couple of years ago and asking my husband to separate. And that was 10 times more vulnerable than sharing about David's disability. Because I don't think we really talk about our marriages a lot. As a culture, we're kind of, that for some reason is kind of off limits. And also I felt shame around the fact that I wanted to separate and that I was unhappy and that I was hurting him and my kids. And so it felt really raw, very, very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've had more time to process what happened 16 years ago, right? So things that are a little closer in your own personal history may feel a little more vulnerable because they're still close, and maybe because it's still working itself out.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't have it all figured out and we're so much stronger, but it's recent history for sure. So yeah, it's still raw, still open. And then, yeah, I think it's just to kind of go there. Like there's just something about marriage that's pretty personal.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could look at David's disability as something that wasn't about me as much, although as a mother, for sure, I've struggled. But with my marriage, it's me. Like this is me and my failures and my unhealthy patterns and those kinds of things.
So I'd love to hear, because I think every one of us a lot of us are married who listen to this podcast, and there's not one of us that doesn't relate to those seasons of crisis in our marriage. I think everybody has them, and sometimes they're triggered by external things and sometimes they're internal things, but we all have them. So what was the trigger for you into that crisis? And you don't have to speak specifics to that, but in a general way. And then how did you start to move toward that crisis and into it rather than away from your marriage in it?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think that I had unhealthy patterns from early, childhood that I carried with me. So I really believed that if I could make people happy, they would love me. And so my job was to please people, meet their needs, be, somehow in charge of their emotional life, and then simultaneously be needless and wantless and be this perfect mother and wife. And so that was just how I approached the world. And honestly, I felt like that is beautiful and good, and that's what God has for me. But ended up, as we've built this business and David's disability and just real life and how hard marriage is, I was so desperately sad and empty. And I really got to a point where I was like, I'm so unhappy. I would rather be alone than continue living this way. And so I had been in counseling. My husband was in counseling. We were both doing couples counseling and individual counseling. And we had been making good change, but I think some of the change that I needed to make was such big, hard change that I actually needed to get out of my real life for a little bit and get some space, be able to think and regroup, and then come back and engage differently. So I think it was actually part of my process. Like, I think it's a good thing, but oh my gosh, it was so painful and scary and hard. And, you know, after Steve and I came back together, we're still in couples counseling, and I'm still doing individual counseling. And so we're still working really hard, but we have such healthier patterns than we used to have. And I am actually saying what I want and need, which is, you would think it's not that hard, but oh my gosh, it's so hard for me. So I'm growing and I'm learning.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a huge proponent of counseling. I feel like it really, it's as important as going to the doctor when you have a pain in your right arm because you have a fracture in there, right? It's just this invisible emotional fracture, and we often let that go. And that's every bit as needed for treatment as if your arm was broken, you know,
100%.
and yet we often just let it go because we're pushing or we're holding things down. And I like what you said about naming your feelings or naming what you need. How even specifically have you learned to do that? Have they given you some great tools for that?
Oh, let's see. I think that there's this deep, deep fear in me that if I say something that my husband doesn't like, then he's not going to love me and eventually he'll leave me, which is really not about him at all. Like, it has to do with other life experiences and probably in my childhood. But one of the things that I've had to do, I mean, honestly, there are times when I feel like I'll say, trying to think of a good example, where I'll just say something I think, and it almost feels like cliff jumping. Like, it's so scary because it's not about saying, it's not the saying it, it's that I'm so afraid the results are going to be catastrophic. And so I started out really small, like, just saying like, stupid things like maybe like, I don't want to eat at that restaurant. Like, I'm not in the mood, and really holding to that. Like, well, if he's like, no, I really want it. I'm like, well, I really don't want it, and having to like really stand there to bigger things. Like, the three of us had a conflict with one of my sisters, and she came to me and told me some things. And I was like, I've got to bring Steve into this because I can't manage it outside of him. And my pleaser self wanted to just handle it and make it go away. But I was like, he's got to know, he's got to be involved in it. We got to have a conversation, the three of us. And I felt like when I told him like, hey, we need to have a conversation with my sister, my voice was cracking, my throat was dry, my knees were shaking. I'm like, engaging in real conflict this way and being honest is so new, so different, so scary. It almost felt like an out-of-body experience where I was like, I'm just going to be a robot and do this because I know it's the best thing to do, even though it felt so hard. And then on the other side, realizing like, why for so long have I been trying to manage everything and everyone when there's no way I could have done it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of women can relate to that, to thinking, I'm not going to state my opinion. I mean, I can relate to it. I'm not going to state my opinion, mostly because I am afraid that the other person is going to get upset. And I just want to keep things even keel and smooth.
Yeah.
And with people that are my most trusted people, right? Like, my husband is somebody I trust and love, and yet have this barrier that is keeping me from saying, yeah, I don't want to eat at that restaurant. I mean, I can relate to that. So how did your husband respond as you started to make these incremental changes? Did he know because of counseling that, okay, this is Lisa working on her thing?
Right.
Or was he a little bit like, wait a minute, I've never had to debate this with you before or have this conversation with you?
Yeah, it's so funny because he would say like, babe, I want to know what you think and want. Like, tell me what you think and want. And then I would tell him and he would get really irritated or upset.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you said you wanted to know. And he's like, well, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have a reaction. But for me as a conflict avoider, I was like, oh, this is exactly why I didn't want to tell you, because I don't want to fight. But the willingness to fight actually brings intimacy and understanding. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fighting for, like, I'm going to have to step up and be stronger and fight. Like, I cannot, and let him feel what he feels, like if I keep staying quiet, I'm like disappearing somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other way I've heard it is that, every time feelings come up, if they just keep getting pushed down, and a counselor put it this way once, that eventually that dam can't hold, right? So all of a sudden you're going to start having these major reactions to these small things, and it's just the dam breaking open. It's all that stuff. And so learning how to really lean into your feelings, and then how to, in a healthy way, deal with those, not then, become unhealthy in how we deal with those and go, we can go far that way too. But it's that balance of acknowledgement and then in a healthy way moving forward into processing.
Oh, that's so true. And I think, yes, it's all there. It's not like it goes away or it dissipates. Like we hold all of that inside of us. And that's why, like when my younger son, Matthias, was little and we were driving in the car and he handed me some ketchup packets. I knew he was handing me ketchup packets, but I didn't realize they were opened and like sticky. And I'm driving the car. I mean, I flipped out. I was screaming. I'm like, what is going on with me? Like, they're ketchup packets. But, it's like there's all this inside, and it just takes one little trigger and it explodes, and it's real. If we're not dealing with all those feelings and the sadness and the anger and the real stuff of life, like it's just waiting to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that about your marriage, because I do feel like that's so universal to people and so helpful, and gives people hope that you guys have really decided to move forward and address some of these things, and you're still in it. You're still there. You're still fighting for it. And that's really encouraging.
Thank you. I really thought like, we're going to figure this out and it's just going to be so much easier, like it's going to be, we'll be more peaceful and we'll just have more fun. And we do, but we fight more than we used to. And I wanted the answers so it would be neat and tidy, like, okay, like let's figure this out so we just don't fight anymore. But it's like, okay, now we're fighting more, but that is actually the real stuff of marriage, and being willing to just let it be messy. Like that's one of the biggest things I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is, I think, so good, because people do think, well, if I just do this, then it will be easier. And you weren't actually stepping into easier.
No.
But you were stepping into more honest.
Yes.
And more honest becomes more intimate.
Yes. And so much more beautiful. And then peace. I mean, like the other day, my husband opened up the linen closet and it was a total disaster. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Like it's such a disaster. And a few years ago, I would have felt like, you know what? I'm a failure. Like that's my job. I don't do it. I need to take care of it. I'm not being a good wife. Like I would have just beat myself up. And, I've grown so much and now I'm like, yeah, it's a mess. Like, I'm probably not going to get to it. Like just doesn't make me a bad person. I'm just like, yeah, it's a mess. I don't know what to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of growth there. Lots of letting it be messy instead of trying to make it perfect,
So good. That's so good. And a part of that is just acceptance, right? That we don't have to be a certain way, just accepting like, well, this is me today, is the me in the messy linen closet today.
Yeah. And
that's
but he can have his feelings and he's going to be okay. I'm not responsible for that.
Yeah.
Like if he gets angry, sad, frustrated, like that's okay. I mean, before I felt like I was spinning. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like I got to make this okay. But it was never my job, to control his feelings.
Yeah. And that word control is what I'm hearing as
Absolutely.
You're talking. It's letting go of control of your circumstances and recognizing I can't control this. And then other people, I can't control how they respond.
Yep.
My job is to be in charge of me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's interesting because I tell my husband this, like if we're in a scenario kind of like you described, and I'm feeling like his emotion coming at me, I will say, listen, I'm not good at not letting that sink in. So I need a minute to like push that back out, because I tend to take on other people's feelings and then it just sinks into me. So, and that's part of just how I'm made. It's my personality. And I often wish that I was like of a personality where I'm like, it's just rolling right off my back, but that's just not who I am. So I have to like almost say that out loud to him and say, this is soaking into me right now. Like I'm taking on your emotion or your anger or whatever it is about whatever it is. And I have to take a second to get that, pushed off.
Oh, I relate to that so much. I I started visualizing myself holding like a metal file box in front of my chest. And, you know, it's just a visual. I'm not actually holding it, but, but I have felt my whole life, like if my husband isn't happy or my kids are unhappy, like I have to take that into my heart and make it about me and make it part of who I am. And so what I do now is I visualize this box where, you know, like if Steve is unhappy about something, I can just listen and I can take that and I can just put it inside the file box and leave it there. Like I don't have to actually take it into my heart. I can leave it outside of my body and put it in this place where he can feel that, he can think that it doesn't threaten me. It's not mine. Like, even if it's about me, you know, it's like, absolutely, he can think that. And that's not necessarily mine to take.
That's so good. I love that visual. That's very helpful, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. It's been so helpful for me.
Women all over the country are now going to be carrying around their
totally.
file boxes.
You just strap it to your chest like a backpack. It's like so awesome.
That's so great. Well, let's talk a little bit about your business journey. I would just love to hear, I mean, I think most of us and probably most people listening know a little bit of your story, that you started out just, it really was a creative outlet for you. Just this small business of hand stamping. And then what's happened? How have you become Lisa Leonard Designs?
Yeah, it's crazy. It really did start out as a little hobby business, just me making jewelry at my kitchen table. And I did home parties with friends. It was just very fun and small. And I think it was like, I started blogging, started doing hand stamped jewelry. And then my husband and a friend built a website for us. And so those three things came together and it just exploded. It was just like the right time and the right things. And yeah, it was.
And were you blogging about your experience with your son or the jewelry? What were you blogging about?
It was really kind of like a blog just to keep friends and family updated. And I did think like maybe the blog could like help the jewelry business, but I didn't have any big expectations for it. And once I started talking about the jewelry on the blog, people were like, oh, I want to buy that. Can I email you? So at first it was like, I'm sending them a PayPal link and they're paying a PayPal, you know, and then like I send out their jewelry. It was super low tech. So once my husband and a friend built the website, it was like a whole new world. But really, I mean, it's changed so much, you know, in the last 10 years or whatever. Now it's a multi-million-dollar business and we have a couple other businesses as well. And my husband runs them. He's brilliant. I mean, he really frees me up to create and engage, you know, with heart on social media. And so he's doing some of the heavy lifting there, which is awesome. And it would not be where it is without him, for sure.
So he's the business brain behind it.
We kind of say like I'm the heart and he's the brains, but it's not exactly true because I do have brains and he also has a lot of heart. Yeah. But if we have to break it down very simply, yes, I'm the heart and he's the brains.
Yeah, because that would be one of my questions is how did you move forward? Because I think a lot of people have great ideas, they have great products, but they don't know how to really push it out there into the world. And so, I mean, what would you say are maybe your top 3 things that you guys did to really push your business forward?
That's such a good question. I mean, it's constantly changing. So I think really being open to, there is a way to do this, and I'm just going to keep looking and searching. And I'm going to make connections wherever I can. I'm going to have coffee with people. I'm going to ask hard questions. I'm going to ask them to introduce me to people. And then I'm going to ask those people to introduce me to other people. I'm going to take risks. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put myself out there. Like, I think when we're really being genuine and passionate and honest, that's where we get like kind of, I feel like synergy is a cheesy word, but I mean, that's when it starts to work, is when it's really you and it's really a product you believe in and it's really your story that you're sharing with the world and people want to hear it.
So a lot of that has to do with being honest. It sounds like those conversations. So did you feel like you were able to have those honest business conversations before you were able to have honest interpersonal conversations? Or did you grow in your business as you were growing kind of in your own pushing?
Yeah, I think it's probably been simultaneous, but you know, like initially I was attending blog conferences and I would go into the conference with a goal, like I'm going to meet 10 women who inspire me. And so if there was a break, like I'm just going up to women and saying, hi, I'm Lisa. And like, it's so vulnerable, right? To just introduce yourself to someone. But I'm like, this is the work. Like, this is my work. I'm away from my kids. And if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to have to get out there and like, who knows who's who and who can give me insight or who I can help. And someone told me once, network up, network down, network side to side, like network with everyone you can. And really by network, I mean, just honest connection. Like, here's me, here's you. How can we help each other? How can we know each other? Even if we don't help each other, like we can support each other.
How have you continued to do that? And because I'm sure a lot of people want your time and they want to network with you. So how do you manage that?
Yeah. Well, we do have a customer service team that helps with some of that, just requests and stuff. But, and I'm not really at conferences as much as I used to be, but I am genuinely trying to connect online, like on Instagram. I'm actually engaging. And if someone inspires me, I reach out to them on direct message. I had a gal a couple of weeks ago, her name's Holly, and she put in the comments, I wish we could be friends in real life. And so I wrote back and said, let's be friends, so I followed her on Instagram and was like getting to know her family. And then this is a different person, but I was in New York a couple weeks ago, and a woman that I know online was in New York, and she's like, hey, could you meet up for coffee? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So these are real people that really do want to connect, and so do I. And so it's kind of crazy when, you're connecting for real. Like we know each other, we know each other's kids' names, and then we meet in real life, and it's like, you're exactly like I thought you would be.
Aw, that is really precious about you.
Oh,
I don't know a lot of people doing that.
I just really want to connect. Like I don't really want to build fans. I want to have a community of women that really support each other. And I love seeing women support each other outside of me too. Like when people are commenting on each other's comments, and I've seen people like, hey, you want to meet up? It's on my Instagram account. They're planning a meetup. And I'm like, that is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, we love it too. That's why we're the Sisterhood.
Yes, it's awesome.
Uh-huh. Okay, so how do you come up with your product ideas? I'd love to hear what your creative process is. You obviously are a creative at heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I used to worry, like, am I going to run out of ideas? Like, because there's only so many ideas, right? And now I feel like, oh my gosh, there are so many ideas. Like, we'll never, ever run out of ideas. I do, like, if I make some space in my life, I tend to have a lot more ideas. Like, I just need space to think and create. So some of it feels like, well, I'm just going to go to the beach and walk by myself, and or maybe take a nap, or I'm just going to sit quietly on the couch. And then a couple of days later, like ideas start popping up. And for me, I really want, whether it's jewelry or something I'm writing, I just want it to be meaningful and honest. So if it's jewelry, like I want it to be something I would really wear that can capture the way that I love my kids, or the way that I'm like stretching to grow and be brave, or I want to tell a story that like women are going to be like, yeah, I have felt that way too, but we're not really talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that idea of just, you have to almost clear out mentally and for me, it's getting outside. That's where I receive inspiration. So, but you have to know what those things are in order to fill back up, You've got to kind of clear your head in order to make room for the ideas, is how I tend to think of it.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting that you said you get the ideas 2 days later, because I would think if you go on a walk, then you have some time to think about it and the ideas come up. But you're saying, no, it just creates enough space for your unconscious mind to start working. And your productivity and creativity comes out later. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's so funny. I still do this sometimes, but I'll set the timer and I'll just sit on the couch for 15 minutes with like no phone, no book, just quiet. Like the kids are at school. And it's so funny because nothing happens in the 15 minutes. Like I'm like, this feels like a waste of time. I just want to pick up my phone. I just want to like not do it. It's funny. It's hard to sit quietly with my
Really
thoughts.
is.
But, and nothing, you know, it's not like light bulbs and like, oh my gosh, it's all coming together. There's just nothing. It's just quiet. But then literally 2 days later, I'll have this light bulb moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be such a beautiful product. Or, oh, I should share this story. Like people would really want to hear that. Like it comes at different times, but it needs the space to kind of grow.
That's really cool. How about just even your production? Are you in overseas as well, or just domestic?
We have a factory in Orange County where we do most of our production. We do about 90% of it there. And it's been such an amazing thing to have that, and just to have incredible people helping us and be part of our team. And then we do have a factory in Israel that does about 10% of our stuff. And they're just amazing artisans as well.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, can I come and tour it someday? Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
We don't really do tours, but I would love to give you one. And we have been talking about doing like a launch party with the book and giving people tours of the factory, because I think it'd be so fun to see like where someone's working and how it works. I mean, factories are fascinating.
Oh, I think that's a fantastic idea, Lisa. You have to do that.
Where are you guys based?
Oh, Denver.
And I'm in the Northwest. But hey, I'll come down.
Yeah, fly out. Oh my gosh, I would love to have you guys. Seriously. I would love it.
Because not everybody has a factory to host their book or their book launch party.
We walk around the factory and I'm like, this is such a trip. And I was like, oh my gosh, we own a forklift. Like we own a forklift. And then our manager was like, you actually own 2 forklifts. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
We're so cool.
This
is fun. Yeah.
They would not let me drive it, by the way.
Well, so you probably need a special license, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a creative team that you draw upon as well?
We have a marketing team that helps with graphics and all of that. But as far as, actually, I do have a designer in the factory that helps me carry out my ideas. She's amazing. So she's really good on the computer, and she can like just kind of polish things up and make them. She can do things that I was like, I want it like this, but better. So she's great. But all the ideas are coming from me. And then my husband has his own brand too, and he's the designer there. So yeah, I mean.
Now what's his brand, Lisa?
It's called Stephen David Leonard, and it's like men's jewelry and leather bags. And it's so cool. I like won a ton of stuff from it. It's a really cool line.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's all for men.
It's all for men. Yeah.
So made like kind of beefy, manly.
Yes. Like really chunky rings and cuffs and leather messenger bags. And it's really cool stuff. And a lot of it can be personalized, like on the inside of the ring or on the inside of the cuff. So it's a little more subtle for men, but it still has that meaning.
That is so cool. That would make an amazing gift for anything, any time of year. That's awesome.
It's really fun. He's doing a great job.
And do you guys collaborate at all, or do you mainly do your own idea? Or do you come up with ideas for that too?
Oh no, he's doing the ideas for Stephen David Leonard. And we do we talk a ton. So we're always talking about the business and ideas and strategies and, and what products are working and how could we take that and come up with another product that's similar but different or meets a different need. So we're talking a ton, but we really try to keep Lisa Leonard like my inspiration and Stephen David Leonard his inspiration.
That's awesome.
Do you watch trends, like go to Fashion Week and see what other people are doing? Or do you think, I don't really want to know that because I am the trendsetter? I do watch trends, but our community like really wants classic, beautiful pieces with meaning, not super trendy. So
true.
I think, I kind of love trends. It's like I'm wearing leopard print boots right now, and I see your leopard print coat.
Hey, we're leopard sisters.
Totally. I love it. But when it comes to jewelry, like I want a piece that you're going to hand down to your daughter and she's going to love it in, 20, 25 years. So we're not super trendy as a business, but hopefully it goes with all kinds of styles and trends.
Mm-hmm. So Lisa, my sister is a hand stamper.
Really?
Yes. It's called As You Wish Jewelry Design, and she and her best friend Kristen have it, and you've been a real source of inspiration for them. So
that's amazing.
I knew about you. I knew about you even in the early days. So because of them,
Cool.
so fun.
As you wish. Okay. I'll have to check it out. That's really cool.
Okay. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about special needs and just really hear your heart on how has that changed you as a mom and as a person to have a special needs child?
Oh, it's such a good question. I really kind of thought I had my life figured out before David was born. And then, we had a tiny baby with 2 fingers on his left hand, and he's nonverbal, and, life just took on a completely different story. And I felt like everything that I hoped for was gone. Like I just, I'm just not going to be happy, and I'm not going to be the mom who watches her child grow and thrive. And I think slowly, we just fell in love with David for who he is. And he is just so precious and joyful and he's so determined. And I really came to a point where I was like, you know what? I just love him. Even, 2 fingers, I love him just as he is. And I just want him to be him, nothing else. And then I would turn around and look at myself in the mirror and think you just need to lose 10 pounds. You look so ugly, and just so hard on myself. And it took a lot longer for me to look in the mirror and say you know what? I mean, I guess I'm still working on it, to be honest, but to love myself and to say it doesn't matter if you need to lose 10 pounds, if, whatever those things are that are our insecurities and that bug us, I am precious and loved just as I am. And I want to love myself because I want to teach David and Matthias, you are amazing just the way you are. You don't have to be different. You don't have to be anyone or do anything. You are loved exactly as you are right now.
And isn't that the message that we all deeply long to hear?
I think so.
I think it is too. What is that song? Alex, what is that song? We can pause this part. I cannot believe I'm not. There's a whole song about this, you guys. You know what it is? It's the, okay, we'll keep talking and I'll think of it. I really wanted to mention it though, so that we could link to it in the podcast, but I do believe that is one of our deepest longings, is to just know and know, really know that we are loved apart from performance, apart from any external, right? But just for who we are. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that's where the truth is, that God loves us exactly as we are right now. But we're still trying to prove and trying to work and trying to be enough. But I really believe God is telling us, you are loved right now. You don't have to do anything, be anything, change anything, improve anything. I love you right now.
Mm-hmm. And motherhood gives us that understanding in a way that we just don't have. I was talking to someone a couple of days ago who just had her first baby, and we were talking about this idea of unconditional love. You experience it as a parent to love someone else, that even she and I both said we didn't love our husbands in that same way. We had all these conditions around expecting our husbands to behave a certain way and respect us and answer us. But with our child, we just all of a sudden knew it does not matter. I would lie down in front of a bus for you. I remember thinking that with my first child. And so when you have a child who maybe is different than you expected to, and it adds that layer of expectation on it, I think you begin to see God's love for you in a whole new way. So motherhood, but then add the special needs layer on top of it, and I'm sure it's a growth experience.
Yeah, it's so true. I think that there's just a love for our children that is different. We accept them, and every kid is different than we think they're going to be, right? Because they're their own little people, or big people, as my kids are getting much bigger. But it is a really beautiful experience. And then to try to turn that around and show that same love and grace for ourselves.
I really like what you said. Like you can say that to someone else, but then you'll look in the mirror and say, you look terrible. You need to lose weight. I mean, that's just interesting. I like that a lot. I think that's important for us too, to treat ourselves kindly in that inner voice and that inner narrative as well.
Absolutely.
And I've just learned so much in neuroscience. And I always talk about this because I'm becoming just like a voracious reader of this, but how those patterns really stick. And so it's so important because the narrative we tell ourselves really becomes our reality. And that happens up here. It happens in our head.
It's so true. It's so true. Have you read the book SelfCompassion by Kristen Neff? It's so good. You guys will love it. She really just talks about how we talk to ourselves. Like, you know, like you get to the office and realize you forgot your laptop and you say like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like, why would I do something so stupid? Like, and I would never talk to a friend that way, you know? And so changing some of those things, the ways we talk to ourselves and just being gracious and kind, the way that you would with a friend or your kids, you know, because it matters. It really does matter.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, so let's switch gears again and talk a little bit about some things that you use every day and just some fun things about you. So talk to us about some things you can't live without that you use all the time.
Yes. Okay. Number one, Aquaphor chapstick. It's like, I love it. I have it all over the house, car, purse, like I love it.
It really is. I feel like with Aquaphor, people are enthusiasts about it. Like you don't just use it just mildly. Like people who use it love it.
I don't know why I love it so much, but yeah, it works really well. And it's like a security blanket. Two, I really rely on a great pair of Levi's for those hard days. You know, like I just need like my trusty Levi's
Okay, that's so old school.
So old school.
I love it. So what Levi's do you buy? And where do you even buy them anymore?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I look in the men's sections at thrift stores. And if they have a pair that's around my size, I just buy it because they're usually like $4 or $5. And I'm like, I'll take them home and figure this out. And I have found some amazing pair of Levi's that like, you know, like I don't know why. I like men's Levi's and I like them already broken in for me. And some of them just feel so good and like put on a pair of booties and a black t-shirt. And it's like kind of like an easy, like comfortable power outfit.
Okay, talk about a trendsetter. I mean, come on, you're pulling out Levi's. I mean, that's like straight from my childhood. I love it.
You need Levi's to go with your leopard coat.
Yeah, vintage is so back too.
It's
so this is awesome. Alex, do you wear Levi's?
No, I don't, but I like vintage.
Yeah, vintage. And if the Levi's are too long, I'll just cut them off. So they have like a fringe, you know, fringe cuff. And it's
cute. You just cut them off.
Yeah, you just cut them and they just kind of fringe a little bit, but put on a pair of booties and it looks like you did it on purpose, which I did do it on purpose.
Anthropology. I mean,
right?
They have so many fringe jeans right now. Yeah. So there you go. You're just anthro.
Totally. I'm pretty much Anthropology. Yeah.
Yeah. But at $4 or $5 a pair, much less expensive.
Yes, I try to be a little thrifty there. But I have enough pairs that it might start to be on an anthro price level. When you have 100 pairs of $4 Levi's.
Yeah.
What is worse? Well, yes, but you're saving them from going in the landfill.
Yeah, it's my duty to save the earth.
Yeah.
So that's my goal.
Although Levi's, some people, you know, that are like the pickers that go to thrift stores, they sell them overseas. And so Levi's, I think, are a little harder to find than other things at thrift stores.
They are for sure, but you can find them. You can definitely find them. And then number 3, I have a good camera that if we're doing something fun, I love to try to get a family photo. Like, I feel like one family photo is just such a precious thing, like to capture a moment. So
what's your camera? What do you use?
I have a Nikon 5D, I think it's called. It's just a nice Nikon, and I like the 50 millimeter lens. It's just like a fixed lens. It takes great pictures. If I'm rushed, I'll just put it on the auto setting and I get amazing photos. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so do you try and shoot in manual, or do you go
I
back?
do. I try to shoot in manual because I can usually do it. But like if it's weird lighting, like if it's fluorescent or it's nighttime, I just put it in auto because I'm just not that skilled.
Right. I'm a total amateur, but it's one of my life goals is to get better. So
It's so fun.
yeah. Okay. What about family tradition?
We are super into these like protein pancakes that we make like almost on a daily basis.
Daily.
Yeah, like multiple times a week. And so it's like, it's oats, cottage cheese, and eggs that you put into a blender with like cinnamon and vanilla, blend it up and you get this batter. But it's really, really high protein. We put chocolate chips and butter and syrup on top. So I'm not sure about that part, but it's kind of our family thing. Like we just, like Matthias, our younger, loves these pancakes. It's like, he kind of needs it as like the stability. Like if we've been out of town, we're like, okay, we just need to make pancakes and, you know, get everybody back on track.
Awesome. Okay. I love that. Cause I was thinking you were going to say just the Kodiak cakes, you know, which are the big protein pancakes you can buy at Costco, but no, you make your own protein pancakes. I love
they're
this.
So easy. It's like 2 eggs, a scoop of cottage cheese, and a 1/4 cup of oats per person. Blend it up. And I put like salt, vanilla, and cinnamon. And they're like, I feel good about, like, I feel like it's a good breakfast for Matthias because he's going to have a big day at school and there's a lot of protein.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Okay. I'm making those tomorrow, Lisa.
They're delicious.
One of my sons is going to play in a state football game tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up and make these pancakes for him before he loads on to the bus.
Awesome. Let me know what he thinks.
Okay. Okay. And what about, well, since we're on the topic of good food, what about some favorite recipes that you guys make either at holidays or on a regular basis?
So I'm super into my Instant Pot right now. Do you guys use an Instant Pot?
Yes. And I'm slowly learning.
I am all about like, how can I be behind all the time, but then suddenly do something amazing that makes everybody feel loved, you know?
Yeah.
Enter the Instant Pot. So
that is so true. It is great for people who aren't great planners, which is me.
I'm not a great planner. Yeah, I'm like, I'm just going to stop and get some chicken on the way home and throw it in. And in 20 minutes, we're going to have this delicious dinner. So I sent you guys a recipe for this. It's called chicken marbella. And it has a bunch of weird stuff like capers, prunes, apple cider vinegar, like all these things you put in. And the recipe says like marinate it overnight and then cook it for 3 hours. And I don't do any of that. I just put all the ingredients into my Instant Pot and set the timer for 6 minutes. And it's like this amazing chicken dish that people are like, this is like the most amazing chicken I've ever had. And it's so easy.
Okay, Lisa, I'm freaking out right now because the silver palette chicken marbella is like one of my staple all-time amazing recipes that I make. Every person who comes over says this is the best meal I've ever had. I've never even heard of it in the Instant Pot. I'm freaking out.
It is. Okay, try it. I bet you'll love it. I mean, if it's like, if you follow the recipe and it's 100% and you do Instant Pot, it's probably 98%. Like it's so good and everybody loves it.
Gosh,
that's crazy.
I cannot believe you do this. I'm like so excited right now. I get excited about these kind of things. This is like really hitting on my sweet spot right now is Instant Pot plus one of my favorite recipes of all time.
Yeah, it's like life-changing. Like you're having company over, you didn't have to plan anything. All you need is 20 minutes and you're a winner.
Wow. Okay. This is really awesome. Alex, have I made you chicken marbella?
Yeah, you have.
That's so funny.
It is so delicious and yummy. And I, of course, am all for the Instant Pot. I mean, I use it every other day.
Yeah,
so much.
Awesome. And I feel like it gives more flavor than a crock pot because you can you can brown the chicken or whatever the meat is, or you can saute the onions. Like you get a little more depth of flavor.
Mm-hmm, for sure. That's so fun. I love it. Okay. Well, Lisa, any last words just about to women as you encourage them? You know, our show is all about encouraging women to take steps forward, to do hard things, to be world changers for good. So any last words for them?
I would love if women get the book and read it, like I would love to hear their stories. I want to journey together and grow together and figure out like what does it look like for each of us to thrive and be whole, and to get to be whole people who have needs and wants. And so just excited to hear everybody else's stories.
Okay. And what's the best way for them to share that with you?
The website is lisaleonard.com. And then on Instagram, I'm Lisa Leonard as well. And probably Instagram's like the easiest way to kind of have back and forth.
Okay, great. Well, this has been so fun to have you on today, Lisa.
So fun. Thank you guys.
Okay, and we are all about this book launch party in the production factory.
Okay.
So
all right, let's do it. Let's do it. For sure. I'm serious.
All right. Have a great day, Lisa.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.